Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex and Jake here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. Jake, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How many Vintage Masters drafts have you done so far?
Only two, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay. Well, I've done my third now, and actually I went over to Adam's and did a couple with his account yesterday, or with him, and I tried some pretty weird strategies. I did the red-blue Lightning Rift deck. I
hmm
did the Rock. And Rock, I had like Arrogant Worm, Survival of the Fittest sort of strategy, so I thought that was cool. Although I did get my butt kicked in that one. And then I've done Red Black Burn, and Adam and I did Mono Blue, which was pretty good too, where it's just like Ophidians, Choking Tethers, Mana Wars, Repels.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
played against that.
yeah, that deck is really good. I
hmm
really think that's a solid deck. But what are the two decks you played?
Oh, well, I actually played like a few. I just didn't get to the final round in either of my two drafts, I guess. But I played the Lightning Rift blue-red deck. I played that Ophidian style deck too. I played against green. Trying to think of what else I played against. That might have been it, actually. I think I might have lost in the first round of the second one I did against that Lightning Rift deck. It's very strong.
Yeah,
He had two rifts too, so that really helped him.
yeah, I had
Um,
two as well. It is really strong,
yeah,
especially since you get your opponent's cycles. That's really
yeah.
strange.
I imagine that Astral Slide is like good for the same reason because if you have Mana War in your deck, then Astral Slide becomes just as brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my I don't know. I think that deck was really solid. The Lightning Rift one might just be better because it actually is a kill condition than on its own. So,
Uh, Adam and I went infinite with Aether Mutation and Scrivener, which is actually just a really cool two-card infinite creature combo. I mean, it's not like infinite at once, but it's just an
mhm.
unlimited chain of 5/5s or 5/1/1s that you can do. Which is kind of cool, actually.
Oh yeah. Well, wait. Aether Mutation is a sorcery, isn't Scrivener only instant?
Oh, yeah. So why did we think we could do that? I don't know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess we never. Maybe we just bounced it once, and that was all we got with it. For some reason, I thought it was infinite last night, but you're right. That is actually just the weird thing about Scrivener in general, that it's not mnemonic wall or whatever.
Well, it was because it was part of a cycle, and we'll see it in Exodus, but it was part of a cycle that finished up Grave Robber. It just each thing in the cycle got something back, and the red one was sorcery, the blue one was instant.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes a little more sense now. Anyway, that all the different decks I've tried so far, it's have been pretty fun. It's a fun format. You know, it's exciting because you can open the Power
hmm
9. Apparently, the prices have been like tanking on Power 9, so
Well, that's probably good.
I feel like once Vintage Masters goes off, I really think the prices are going to spike back up. That's kind of what
Yeah.
I think. But I don't know. I mean, they're at a pretty low price right now, so I don't know how much lower they'll go. Force of Wills are like 25 or something, 30 maybe. Very cheap for what just compared to what they were like a month ago.
Mm.
Anyways, check out seemsgoodmagic.com and you can see the Vintage Masters drafts that I'm doing and I'm posting pretty regularly. I did every day so far since the pre-release started, and they are expensive. They're a little bit of they're heartache a little bit more because they're so damn expensive. All right,
Cyclical Evolution.
We've got Cyclical Evolution. This is the segment of the show where Jake and I go through not all, but all the cool ones in our mind, cycles from the various sets of Magic. So this week we're doing Tempest block. We're going to start it off with Tempest. Anything before we start you want to say about Tempest, Jake?
This is probably hands down my favorite block, Tempest block. So I have a real soft spot for all of the cards in this set, even though there are a lot of terrible cards. But there were also a lot of really powerful cards. And this was before they started to give really great creatures to colors, you know? So a lot of the really strong cards were enchantments or basically not creatures.
Yeah.
Which is right up my alley. So.
Yeah, definitely. You love your enchantments. What's what's kind of the story arc of Tempest? What's going on in the Magic universe?
Yeah, actually that is something that's pretty unique. This is the first time they took a story and ran with it in a way that it was like you had a really clear idea of how it was all playing out, because a lot of the art depicts moments from the story. A lot of the flavor text reads about the story. And what it is it's the journey of the Weatherlight into Wrath to recover Cisei.
And the Weatherlight is a flying sort of...
It's a interplanar transport, basically. It's a flying ship that can go between planes, which is very unique. Normally you have to be a planeswalker to go from plane to plane. So the fact that there was a ship that could do it is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, Phyrexians have the technology to do it, go plane to plane, but like the Weatherlight is one of the few that wasn't Phyrexian that could do it.
I see. Okay.
Anyway,
that sounds cool. I like that. So
yeah.
And it's just Captain Cisei or whatever is piloting the Weatherlight.
No, she actually was captured in Weatherlight, and Gerard and crew are going after her in the Tempest block.
Oh, okay.
And rescuing her. It's a rescue mission, basically.
Oh, cool. All right. Let's jump into it. We got some interesting cycles to look at, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So first we've got the introduction of slivers. That's definitely an exciting thing that this set brought, since we've got all the way up to M14. We've still got slivers coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different look, much to your chagrin.
Yeah.
But
they're not the same, but I know what they're trying to do. But whatever. A lot of people probably don't remember these slivers even, so it's fine.
Maybe you want to... So the slivers, the idea of what they are, why do they look like this? What is the importance of their appearance? Why
I
do
think
they...
it's just to be like insectile, hive-like. The idea is just that they have no eyes. Like stuff like this, it's like they can't be reasoned with. This isn't something that you look at and you say, that thing knows what it's doing, and it's just a mindless force of nature. And I think that's why initially slivers were kind of cool, because they didn't have any
individuality. It was a lot more.
It was all about the whole group of them, and once the whole group was together and established, it was pretty much impossible to take down the hive,
Mm-hmm.
which is the really cool aspect about it. So you could play 5 colors, and just so everyone is aware, metallic sliver doesn't get put into this either cycle, the uncommon one or the common one, because it isn't as strict as these. All of the uncommon ones are 3-drop 2/2s, and they grant an ability to each sliver that is in play. So this is also different from the way they are now, which is only your slivers get the bonus from slivers you control. It used to be that every sliver on the board got the bonus of each sliver on the board.
Okay. So for this set, this is the uncommon cycle, you said, because they're the 3-drop one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got Barbed Sliver in red, Armor Sliver in white, Mnemonic Sliver in blue, Mind Whip Sliver in black, and green is Horned Sliver. So the red one gives your sliver, makes them gives them fire
Fire
breathing
breathing.
essentially for 2 colorless. Armor Sliver gives them a toughness boost, so I don't know if that has an actual
Like holy armor
yeah
ability, kind of.
with 2 colorless, and then Mnemonic Sliver gives them sack a creature, draw a card.
Well, sack this creature.
Oh, okay,
So
sack this creature, draw a
sack
card,
itself and 2 mana to draw a card.
and then you've got Mind Whip Sliver, which you can pay 2 and sack. Uh, with the slivers and make them discard at random. And then you've got the Horn Sliver, which kind of seems like the standout one on the activated ability front, since it doesn't grant any activated abilities, but it gives them each sliver trample.
Yeah. I'd say Horn Sliver and then Mnemonic Sliver probably are the best from this cycle. The others, Barb, Armor, and Mind Whip, are all a little too expensive for the effect, I think.
I think Mind Whip's not super impressing me that much, but I am pretty impressed with the. I actually like the barbed sliver.
Barb's good, but
It's cool.
I don't think it's better than Horned or Mnemonic in my
Yeah,
opinion.
definitely. I'm down with the mnemonic. And I mean, giving all your slivers trample could be good, but not if your slivers aren't big, I guess.
Yeah, but we'll see the next Sliver cycle had Muscle Sliver in it, so Green at least had that.
All right, so yep, you've pretty much rated of those. Oops. That's weird. I guess we don't do them till later, but we'll see them. We'll see them the common cycle in a bit. So next we actually have the continuation of the Tog cycle. We've got Oratog, which you said finishes off the monocolor Tog cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Atog and Antiquities, then we went into Foratog and Mirage, Chronotog in Visions, Necrotog in Weatherlight. Now we have Oratog in Tempest. So this is a 2-drop 1/2, and you can sacrifice an enchantment and give it +2/+2. So the exact counterpart to Atog, essentially. And Oratog was a cool spell. Were there some decks that ran it? I feel like you could probably abuse it like Atog if you had some
if you were
cheap
an
enchantments.
Enchantress, like I'm sure it was easy if you had Enchantress. It might have been better once Argothian Enchantress from Urza's Saga came out, and then you had and then you had Rancor. So you could be like, play Rancor, draw a card, sack it, put it back in my hand, play it again, draw a card, sack it, put it back in my hand.
Yeah.
You know.
That's pretty insane. Just Rancor and Oratog is very good together.
Yeah.
I mean, the trample is just insane with that.
Yeah, finish pumping and then just throw trample on it and get in.
Yeah. That is really insane.
Yeah.
And there was like a full part of that. Wasn't there almost like a full cycle with Rancor too of other enchantments?
Yeah. I mean, none of the other ones were ever really notable, but Rancor was obviously just the best of all of it. Because it's 1 mana and it gives a huge amount of abilities actually for 1 mana.
So we are going to see some more Togs throughout Magic, but this finishes off the monocolor ones. So that's cool. Do you have a sort of ranking that you'd put them at just on a personal preference, and it can be limited, constructed, either one, whatever, just overall?
I guess I think that Atog is probably the best, and then Necrotog out of like what's going to happen. You can build around Atog. Necrotog creatures will be at the top of your or in your graveyard, so that's going to happen. Foratog I'm not as excited about because it costs mana to sack a forest, and like looking back, there was really no need to have that be how it was, but I guess they felt it. Chronotog is you hardly ever get to use that ability, basically, unless it's for the killing blow. You're not really going to want to skip your next turn unless you have like a stasis lock set up and you're just going to plan on making your opponent draw out. Oratog is also built around, and unless the format really allowed for it, it's not really that great. So I'd say it's Atog and Necrotog.
Okay. That's cool.
And yeah, the rest of the 3 can be wherever they want to be. I don't care.
All right, next we've got Boil, Dread of Night, Insight, Warmth, and Reap. So let's see if anything stands out right off the bat of how these are connected.
There's really no connection. It's just the color hate cycle, and I didn't want to have two things hate the same color.
Oh, I see.
That's
Okay.
why.
So we have Boil in red, which hates islands. It's 4 mana instant, destroy all islands. The instant seems a bit unnecessary, but they
Well,
really,
it's
they
end of your
really,
turn, counter this, or you won't be countering anything.
yeah, it's
You
pretty
know?
brutal.
Yeah.
Dread of Night is 1 black enchantment, and it gives all white creatures -1/-1. That could be devastating. Curse of Death's Hold against White Weenie for 1 mana.
hmm
Insight is blue, and whenever an opponent casts a green spell, you get to draw a card. I mean, that's against mono green. That's devastating.
hmm
That's actually a cool card for Commander too.
Yeah, it is.
Then we have Warmth in white, and whenever an opponent casts a red spell, gain 2 life. That's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
that as a sideboard against red burn is not fair.
No.
And then you've got Reap in green, and that lets you return any number of target cards from your graveyard to your hand. But you can't choose more cards than the number of black permanents target opponent controls. So that one is oddly worded, but I know what's going on. It's like the
Yeah.
more black permanents they have, the more stuff you're getting from your graveyard to your hand. And it's at instant speed too, which is cool.
hmm It's a cool card. I think in the end, it's cool for Commander. Reap is,
Yeah.
But even then, it's not the greatest card. Unless you're in like blue green change colors kind of style of deck where you can really benefit from that, and then it's still like not that great.
We've still come a long way since this point in minimizing how much hate cards really hate, because these
Yeah.
all seem pretty brutal.
I mean, they're still dedicating 10 spots in uncommons for color hate and
Yeah.
like ridiculous color hate. The next cycle is even
Yeah.
worse. I feel like
Let's-
it's
all right.
even more brutal.
Let's check this out. So we've got Chill in blue, which makes red spells cost an additional 2 to play. Choke in green, which makes islands not untap. Light of Day in white, which makes black creatures have pacifism, essentially, cannot attack or block. Perish in black, which destroys all green creatures. And then we have Havoc in red, which whenever an opponent casts a white spell, they lose 2 life. So, yeah, no kidding. These are just insanely brutal.
Yeah. This cycle, I mean, Boil, Dread of Night, and Warmth are all really, really, really good too. But these 5 kind of, and I mean Havoc to a lesser extent, but the 4, Chill, Choke, Light of Day, and Perish are all just they're just so good. And
Yeah.
Perish, destroy no regen on all your green creatures is like, don't be playing green against me.
Light of
3
Day.
mana, I'm gonna log.
Light of Day against mono black beats.
hmm
There's no
Yeah.
way out.
Suicide Black, you're down. You're done if Light of Day hits the board.
Yeah.
If your opponent gets to turn 4, the game is over for you. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they can't deal with enchantments.
And Choke the same way. I mean, to a lesser extent, but once you land Choke against like mono blue control, they have to really reconsider everything they do.
Yeah. And I mean, Chill seems insane too against the
Yeah,
burn deck.
Chill is really good.
That's not
I-
fair. 2 mana.
Once you get 2 chills out, they're done.
Yeah.
That deck wins is done.
Yeah, what are they supposed to do? That's
Yeah,
insane.
I can't pay 5 mana to play a lightning bolt on
Yeah.
it. I can't do that.
And Perish is still played. Perish is
Yeah.
absolutely still played as sideboard
think-
legacy.
I think Perish, Dread of Night, Chill, Choke, all get sideboard play, and I would say that Warmth is totally like valid if you're white in Legacy to have sideboarded against a like red deck win style deck, because they are out there for sure.
All right, moving on. We've got the first of the land cycles. So this, I was asking you when we were building this, why is all this color fixing necessary? And you said you don't even know. It's not even super multicolor set or anything.
No,
But we've got
they just wanted to do it. I think they at the time they were thinking they were kind of helping people who wanted to play enemy colors. But yeah, this is just it's a really brutal cycle.
yeah. So they're were they rares in this
They
set
were
then?
rare, yeah.
Okay, so they all intertapped. We've got Caldera Lake, Pine Barren, Salt Flat, Sky Shroud Forest, and Scabland. They all intertapped, and then they can tap for a colorless, or they can tap for 2 different colors, 2 enemy colors, and it deals the damage to you. So they're pain lands, except you can't use them the turn they come in. They're very restrictive, and I mentioned to you that these are the ones that they opted to use in Vintage Masters, which seems interesting, alongside all the Power 9 and stuff. But
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they decided to go with these in the end. It might have, like I said, it might have just been to print them, like to put them out there so people
Yeah.
could have them for their commander decks. But other than that, I can't really think of a good reason. They fix fine enough. If your rock Pine Barrens is okay, but if you're Ramp Rock with Findhorn Elves and Vintage Masters, you probably don't want either of these
Yeah.
green ones, you know?
it's just too
That's-
slow.
Yeah, that's my problem with the green ones in particular, is that they don't really go toward what green wants initially anyway. So
All right, and then the next land cycle, we've got Cinder Marsh, Mog Hollows, Thalicos Lowlands, Vec Townships, and Rootwater Depths. So this cycle, you can use them the turn they come in. They all tap for colorless, and they tap for ally colors, but they don't untap during your next untap phase. So the only annoying things about these are you just have to remember. There's no way to like indicate.
well, they did use depletion counters when they had done this in Ice Age, because they had done that depletion counter cycle, and that was actually more annoying than this just remember thing, you know?
Oh, okay. So it turned out
So-
the remember was okay.
Yeah, I think remember in the end is better than depletion counters. But I think they could have done this as the like the enemy
Me
color
colors.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, since they had already done pain lands as allied colors, and they had already done depletion lands as allied colors. Like, just do the pain lands that are tap lands then as allied colors, or make those lands just come in tapped, and they like make them guild gates and uncommon.
Yeah.
You know?
They were like nervous about that though. I guess they thought
Yeah.
it was too close to dual lands at that point. Maybe it was they
Yeah.
thought it was too powerful of an effect.
I think they were just really leery about mana fixing early on, and
Which
and I think
sucks.
it was because they had probably such a huge backlash off of printing dual lands right away. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that was probably the mistake that cost all of the other lands. Regular pain lands weren't that bad, but it took till Ice Age to get something really decent.
Yeah. Anyway, these are cool. At least some of the art's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. I like the lowlands in particular, and townships. I thought they looked really cool.
Yeah, I like the townships too.
And I guess depths is kind of spooky in its own way.
Not much to say about that land cycle other than neither of them are particularly good by
No,
today's standards.
no.
Okay, next we have Circle of Protection Shadow, which continues the Circle of Protection cycle. So we've got brand new art too, which you can kind of see on here.
Mhm.
And Circle of Protection Shadow does the same thing, except for creatures with Shadow. So prevents damage from Shadow creatures. And if you don't know what Shadow is, they can only block and be blocked by creatures with Shadow. So it was kind of an interesting mechanic, I thought. I thought it was a pretty interesting mechanic. And
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great mechanic, but then you gotta take away flying, I think, from your set, or like limit flying to a lot less or something. That's really the problem with it. It's adding a new evasion that, you know, you have to account for on top of having old evasion.
well, it's like horsemanship too, the same sort of thing. It's like only be blocked by creatures with horsemanship.
Yeah,
Could at least block creatures that didn't have horsemanship.
but they didn't have flying then either, you know. So horsemanship was their flying, and I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. That works, but the shadow plus
Had
flying,
It was too much evasion
yeah,
and
it's
weird
like
things.
way too much evasion. So, you know, you see colors like black, white, and blue were pretty much, I think, the strongest colors in the format for limited, because they could just fly or
beating it.
shadow through. And green had like Heartwood Dryad, Reality Anchor, which we'll see to stop shadow, and red had Wall of Diffusion and Shadow Storm. So
I sideboarded into Wall of Diffusion in Vintage Masters, and it paid off pretty good.
that card is actually amazing because it doesn't have shadow, which is the sweet thing about it. It can just block creatures with shadow.
Or
So-
not, yeah.
Yeah, so it can block everybody, which was why that card is so good. But yeah, at the time though, in Limited, there were only 2 cards in each of those colors, the colors that didn't get shadow, that could deal with shadow.
Oh, okay.
So it was like really unfortunate. They just really, didn't give enough
To combat it.
to count. Yeah.
I see. There was also the land or something, wasn't there?
Yeah, Maze of Shadows, yep. But I guess it just comes down to, like, they had Canopy Spider in there, but what green really needed was a big, but like a giant spider type guy that blocks shadow instead. You know?
Circle of Protection Shadow, pretty narrow card. I mean,
Mhm.
this is the only block that even has Shadow, right? I guess Time Spiral brought it back. or
Yeah,
something.
but they wouldn't have printed Circle of Protections at that time, so it's kind of a moot point,
Yeah, true. It's just it's definitely the most narrow of the Circle
It's
of
super
Protections.
narrow. Yeah. Like, you'd be better off getting one of the color ones, because then it doesn't matter what they're doing.
It would have been a great card, sideboard and limited, I'm sure. It would have been great. Okay, next we have finally finishing off the common slivers. So these are all 2-drop 1/1 slivers, or kind of 2-drop 1/1 slivers. I guess that isn't necessarily the case with Muscle Sliver, but we've got Clot Sliver in black, Heart Sliver in red, Muscle Sliver in green, Winged Sliver in blue, and Talon Sliver in white. So Clot Sliver gives your guys regen, or your slivers regen. Heart Sliver gives them haste. Muscle Sliver pumps them +1/+1. Winged Sliver gives them flying. Talon Sliver gives them first strike. Winged Sliver and Muscle Sliver stand out to me as pretty insane ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's actually funny that this is the common cycle
Yeah.
when you think about it, because
seem better.
the uncommon cycle has, each one of them except for the green one has a mana cost associated with the ability. And at 2 mana, it's like, they're pretty expensive, You're paying 3 to get a 2/2 already. I think that you could argue that Muscle Sliver and Horn Sliver could have had their abilities switched, and it would have probably been for the better.
Yeah, because Muscle Sliver now is part of some fringe legacy sliver decks.
Yeah.
Alongside,
Ether Vial.
Yeah.
Ether Vial and Slivers, basically.
Yeah, it's good. Wing Sliver, for 2 mana, giving all your slivers that kind of evasion, that's really insane.
Yeah, Wing Sliver is really good.
I like that a lot.
Mhm.
So this is didn't they bring Wing Sliver? No, they made it 1 mana now. That was how they.
Yeah, and only affects your guys, so
Mhm.
it's even better.
Jeez, but slivers can't catch on now because they just didn't print enough.
Well, they didn't print. Well, no, they printed Predatory, didn't they? So they have a Muscle Sliver. It just they didn't print enough of them.
Yeah, they didn't. It was too small.
Yeah.
So it makes it too difficult to play, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Cool introduction to slivers, though. All right, next we have DaSea Mercenary and Saltary Crusader. So these are black and white creatures, respectively. 2/1s. They both have shadow, and they both inflate, or at least fire-breathing style inflate, for 2 mana. I really like DaSea Mercenary's picture on the crazy, like, demon-y beast thing.
Yeah, Matthew Wilson was a cool artist. I liked him a lot. And the Dauthy creatures in general, like the Dauthy race, is kind of just scary and spooky in like a dark, demonic way.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. And the Saltaries are pretty strange as well.
Yeah, they almost, like, I think alien, like a traditional alien, that kind of thin, big-eyed, big head, look is kind of how the Dauthy look to me, or the Saltari look to me. And all of them, I guess when they appear, according to the books, if they were to appear in the regular world, would have a smoky, almost transparent look to them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So DaSea Mercenary is inflatable, which is cool. And it is in Vintage Masters. And I've gotten a chance. I played it today, and I liked it a lot. Just getting in a couple attacks with that and devoting a little mana to it can really do a ton of damage. It can add up really fast. So I don't think they put the Crusader in Vintage Masters, but Mercenary's in there, and it's pretty damn playable. Shadow performs well in Vintage Masters, definitely. Okay, next we have the Medallion Cycle. So we have Emerald Medallion, Jet Medallion, Pearl Medallion, Sapphire Medallion, and Ruby Medallion. So these all make spells of a certain color, 1 colorless less to play. So we were saying, I just don't think they could print this anytime soon, because it's essentially better than, ramp for any
Mhm.
color. Maybe not necessarily better than ramp, but it's like a really interesting type of ramp since it's
Yeah,
making
I
everything
think
cheaper.
like a lot of what they were trying to do, starting with Mirage was, or maybe even Ice Age, was trying to fix things that they thought were mistakes in Alpha. So they were trying to go back and make like the first iteration of the Power 9 fair, you know. And then they wanted to do um, like that 1 mana cost 3 effect spell. They wanted to fix that too. So that's why Brainstorm got created and why Incinerate was made, because they just thought those cards were too strong, Ancestral Recall and Lightning Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
So they did Lion's Eye Diamond to try and do a fixed Black Lotus. They did, I swear there's another one out of that was directly supposed to be Power 9. But from this set, these were supposed to be fixes for the Moxes. And then they did Time Warp as a fix to Time Walk, you know.
Okay. I mean, these medallions, they're unfortunately not a fix because they're really, really
Yeah.
good still.
I guess they're on a different level, but they're still very, very good.
Yeah.
They're not Moxen. I mean, you can't play them turn 0 or turn 1 and be
Yeah.
happy. You can't play more land than what you normally can, you know.
I don't like...
It's a different
yeah.
kind of really good effect.
Unfortunately, it punishes green too much, having a cycle like this, because the real perk of green is being able to ramp. That's like the traditional part of green.
Mhm.
It's you play creatures and spells that get you to your bigger creatures faster. So
Mhm.
having that available for any color, to me, doesn't seem very fair
Well,
for green.
if you had a Llanowar Elf first turn and second turn you could play an Emerald Medallion Rampant Growth, you know, then you're actually up by 3 mana on turn 3. So you could play a 6-drop on turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, you're still... To me, it seems redundant, the Emerald Medallion in green anyway. But just Jet Medallion, Pearl, Sapphire, paying less for counter spells at a one-time nominal fee of 2 mana to get that out, and then for the rest of the game, your counters can cost 1 less. I don't know. Something
Yeah.
about it doesn't seem right. Making your burn spells cheaper, that one actually doesn't even make sense to me. But Jet and Pearl and Sapphire do seem like they're pretty crazy good.
I think with the direction White has gone into being able to have more of a control aspect to it, initially it was, I think, a little more aggro-based. And then it was used as just like an accent to blue as a control color. I still think Sapphire Medallion is probably the best of the cycle.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Seems like it would be insane.
Well, and then they made Tolarian Academy, so.
Yeah, so you can get it back.
No, I mean.
Makes it so you
Tolarian
ramp for
Academy.
each artifact you have or something?
Yeah.
So your spells are cheaper and you're ramping more because of the artifacts making your spells cheaper? Yeah, it seems like too much. So, yep, I don't think they can do this. They can't do something like this anymore. It's too good. All right, next we have the Licet, but you call them Licet, so I have no idea what the actual name of it is.
I'm sure it's listed.
I mean, we don't know. It's Licid. But we have Enraging Licet in red, Stinging for blue, Quickening in white, Nurturing in green, and Leeching in black. So we're going to see more Licets later in the block, but for Tempest, we've got these 2-drop 1/1 Licets that all have some odd abilities. So they're creatures. They look like facehuggers almost.
Yeah, pretty much they are.
Or if you've seen Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, the end of Season 1, the Starfleet Academy admirals have all been taken over by a mind control parasite, and they all kind of look like this too. So I don't know if that was a homage to that or not, but so the red one, they all have the ability you can
They become auras. For a certain amount of mana, you attach them to a creature, and they become an aura with a new ability. And then they can fall off the creature for 1 mana of their color.
Okay.
So red is haste.
Yep.
Blue is when the creature becomes tapped, it deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. White is first strike, green is regenerate for 1 green, and black is at the beginning of its controller's upkeep, 1 damage to enchanted, 1 damage to enchanted creature's controller.
The reason I like this cycle is that it's diverse too, because you've got the hate Licids as well as the positive benefit Licids. So it's kind of cool to see that, both of them.
Yeah, and then they flipped it in Stronghold. You'll see that blue and black got the beneficial Licids, and then green, red, and white all got the hate Licids.
Very interesting. So,
yeah.
Very cool cards. We've played with them before, and I'm usually pretty happy with them. I think they actually played pretty well.
I think they're really cool. I think the only problem with them is
confusing.
The way that they fall off. If they just naturally fell off when the creature died, I think it would make more sense to people. And the fact that you can actually use the mana and the effect makes them very, very annoying blockers. Because they are tapped when you attach them to a creature, but then on your upkeep or on your next turn you untap them.
Yeah.
So then your opponent doesn't realize, and Stinging Licet in particular, if they attack with the creature you attached it to, they take 2 damage from that. Then you make it fall off. Then you block with it. Then you reattach it to the creature, and it's been blocked.
So this was actually a design error. I highly, highly doubt they intended the Licids to be played like that.
Yeah, no, they're very easy to abuse the abilities that they have, the way that they design them. But I'm sure that they didn't really see that interaction at the time.
Yeah, so that's kind of unfortunate, actually, that worked out like that. And you're sure that at that time they didn't have after declare attackers, they didn't have
the only thing was that if a creature was removed or tapped, it wouldn't deal damage, but if it was removed outright, the attacking creature was still considered blocked.
Okay, so you could still
still manipulate it the way that I just described, and it was still a really obnoxious thing to do.
So that's kind of the error, and they're a little bit confusing. I mean, even if that aspect of them wasn't there, it's odd when you have permanents that turn into different types of permanents.
Yeah, the Oracle wording on these are now such that the ability to become an aura with the falls off ability is all one thing, and then they all just say enchanted creature this, So the Enraging Licet would say enchanted creature has haste. So it doesn't ever affect anything until it is an aura, and then it just has the ability to become an aura, and that ability grants it the fall off effect, which is similar to Morph. Actually, you can't respond to that may fall off thing.
Okay. Let's move on here. We've got, wait a second. Oh, Night of Dawn and Night of Dusk. So we saw the shadowed versions of these, kind of, and now we have the more traditional versions of it. So we have Night of Dawn and Night of Dusk. They're both 3 mana 2/2 night creatures. The Night of Dawn has first strike and can gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, which seems insane. And then we have Night of Dusk, which can destroy a creature blocking it for 2 black. The white one seems about 1,000 times better than the black one.
It's really actually unfortunate because the Night of Dusk is so good in its own way,
The Night of Dawn, you mean, or the Night of Dusk?
No, the Night of Dusk is actually really good in its own way, but because the Night of Dawn has the pro any color and first strike, it's actually just a million times better. Because, you won't block it if you have a 2 toughness guy. The Night of Dusk will never block it. And then if they finally get something big enough to block it, you just go through it anyway. Or if it's too big to attack through it and survive, you just sit back and block it. And the Night of Dusk ability targets, which is actually retarded, because then the Night of Dawn can just block it. And even if you activate the ability, they just give it protection from black in response.
Yeah. No, that's right. So it's not just destroy one.
It should have just been destroy all creatures blocking Night of Dusk. Because how many creatures are going to block it? You know what I mean? It's a 2/2. And for that effect, you know what I mean? That's a lot of mana to invest.
Night of Dawn just seems too good. I don't like the idea of creatures being able to gain protection willy-nilly like that. Multiple
No.
colors in one turn. It just seems way too good.
I think if they wanted to make this a card now, it'd be a rare, and that would cost 3 mana to activate that ability.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but still, it's just, that ability just seems too good, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool pictures, though, for sure.
Definitely. I like the art.
Okay, next we have Reality Anchor and Shadow Rift. So you brought these up a little bit earlier. Reality Anchor is 1 and a green instant. Target creature loses shadow until end of turn, and you get to draw a card. And then Shadow Rift is 1 blue instant. Target creature gains shadow until end of turn, draw a card. So one gives evasion, one takes it away. They both are cantrips. Fairly straightforward cycle here.
Yep. One is they're just opposites, basically.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's the 2 colors that don't get shadow that are given 1 card to combat shadow, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, each of those 2 colors had 2 cards.
Oh, I see.
So it was
Okay.
this and Heartwood Dryad, but the Heartwood Dryad was a 2/1 that could block creatures with shadow, so it was not good,
Mm-hmm. And it looks like in Reality Anchor, it's a guy pulling a Salteri guy out, right?
Yeah, it's airtight. Because this Soltari is called Lena, and she in Shadow Rift is pulling airtight into the Shadow Realm.
Oh, okay.
So in Reality Anchor, he's pulling her out.
Okay. Cool. See how you like it. All right. Next, we've got Scalding Tongs and Thumbscrews. These are both 2 mana artifacts, and they have a during your upkeep ability. So Scalding Tongs is if you have 3 or fewer cards, it deals 1 damage to an opponent. And then Thumbscrews is if you have 5 or more, it deals 1 damage to an opponent. So this is kind of the new way to do Black Vices, sort of.
Yeah, I think this was their fix to the Rack and Black Vice. Like they were constantly trying to fix old cards, and this was their fix. Very shitty fix.
Yep, they could have made them 1 mana pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, Thumbscrews maybe I don't even know. Thumbscrews is like 1 damage is so shitty.
Yeah.
It's not that good.
Yeah, I think they're just not that good. So they could have been 1 costed, and they would have been okay, probably. But, yeah. Next we have Salteri Priest and Salteri Monk. And these are 2 mana, 2/1s with shadow and a protection from white's enemy colors. So we've got red and black. And that's pretty cool, I guess. I like that.
I would say
both
the
good.
Red one is by far the best, since red has no way to stop shadow traditionally anyway. It can get through all the time. They can't target it with burn. I know that they can't target Monk with removal, but I feel like the Priest is just so much more relevant.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Monk can block all their shadow creatures, so it really just depends on what deck you're playing against.
I mean, Priest even gets past the Wall of Diffusion, so that's quite the trump there.
Yeah. I think Priest was just really obnoxious because Red already was at a loss for dealing with Shadow, and this was just kind of the nail in the coffin.
It always strikes me as kind of redundant when you've got shadowed creatures with abilities that almost give it more evasion too, but in the case of Pro Red and Pro Black, I mean, like you said, those are the two removal heavy colors, so it actually does make sense on these guys. All right, well, that's gonna finish the cycle. We've got Weird Harvest. Weird Harvest. This is a segment of the show where we talk about a weird card from the past. We talk about the name and picture specifically, not necessarily how the card was designed, but more how the art was done and how it was named. So for this week, we've got Humility from Tempest. So actually, not too bad of a name, Humility. It sounds a lot like a lot of other cards from Magic. It's a 4-mana enchantment. Each creature loses all abilities and becomes a 1/1 creature. What kind of creature would they be now?
Just their own creature type. They're just 1/1.
Oh, okay.
So it's each creature loses all abilities and is 1/1.
Okay. So in this case, the picture is the unique and fun part of this card. It's by Phil Foglio. We've actually featured him in Weird Harvest before with Gaseous Form. This time around, we've got the Grim Reaper and a dragon panhandling. So they're asking for money on the street. It looks as if
for money.
Yep. The Grim Reaper seems to be doing some sort of tarot card reading, and the dragon appears to be doing some sort of dance routine.
Yeah, I think it's because of the baton. I want to say it's like a
I know
like,
you're gonna say
oh
like
my God, tap
s-
dancing, singing in the
yeah.
rain, something like that.
Yeah, like a sultry jazz hands number or something.
And I love the worried look on the dragon's face.
Yeah.
Like with the grin of I'm trying my best.
Yeah,
and,
it's got the fake smile. It's the
Yeah.
I'm actually nervous, but I want you to think I'm happy face.
Yeah. And somebody actually is throwing him a coin, which makes it so much better because somebody's taking pity on him. He's that pathetic.
Grim Reaper seems to be doing a little bit better on the
Yeah,
finances.
he's got a couple coins. I also love that the Grim Reaper's plan is to like screw you over with that card, like clearly hidden in his sleeve.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious. I didn't even notice that. So this picture goes deep and it's very funny. So I recommend checking out Humility from Tempest by Phil Foglio.
This is a card that I think that they should actually reprint with art that's a little more serious, but this old art is really great.
And then maybe, if they reprint it, then people can dig up their old Humilities.
Just put it in like a Commander product or something. It would have been great to put it in the Conspiracy set, but some other casual product.
This seems like a highly playable Commander card.
It's a great Commander card for sure.
All right, well, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out SeemsGoodMagic.com. Check out the Vintage Masters draft videos that I've been posting. And apparently it's going to be running events for maybe a month or two. But they're going to be selling Vintage Masters product until, what's the next set coming out called again? The next block? It's like Sarkin Balls thing or Khan.
Warlords or Khans of Kanar, I don't know.
Yeah.
Khans of Takar.
They're going to be selling Vintage Masters until that set comes out. So until then, jam some Vintage Masters or watch some drafts and learn some things because it's an expensive format. But we'll see you in 1 week. Take it easy.
Later.